Hey everyone, I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to all for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares with me. From the heart, thank you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video. Gracias. Well, before getting into the topic on hand, I want to give everybody a big thanks for your prayers and wishes regarding my niece procedure. Thank you God, everything went well. I stood there till they moved her up to her room and I came back. But God's amazing and again, thank you to all. Well, getting into the topic, today I want to touch on, we always hear ain't nobody above the program, right? Well, myself as all of you, I'm sure by now know that that's a myth, right? But at least when it comes to homies, camaradas, it's facts, Ain't no one above the program. But there's always those homies or individuals that think they're smarter. And it's always those cocky ones, that feel they're untouchable. But that's more so what's going to circulate around, right? On this one, I'm going to take you back to the feds, again on the yard. There was a lot of homies, to pinpoint every homie on the yard is it'll be a mission. But again, I was well, I was with Sana because I was receiving whatever I was taking in, right? But I stated it before in back videos. There was a few homies from up north, right, in the valley, Central Valley, and you know, for some reason, Jack Joe had a good one, but I want to talk about this one individual, Giant from Modesto. I believe Barrio Los Primos or something to that effect, right? But anyways, this is the homies, one of the biggest homies I ran across in the system, right? The homie has size and but with that size came ego. You know, he felt untouchable. But something I learned throughout my time is size don't matter when the other individual's holding steel on in his hands, right? But anyways, again, there's a lot of people wet behind the ears that think they're above the program, right? And this homie, he was a hustler. He liked to hustle and buy from anyone, and it's not frowned upon in the feds, right? But when the Billy say chales, it's chales. For example, I've talked about the couple misunderstandings we had with Dominicans, right? So, of course, they put a stop to messing with them. At the end of the day, their method was discovered. It was done. It was a wrap, you know, and it's how it goes, It's how everything goes. As long as you could bring to the table your freedoms, if not, you're not. And anyways, this food giant, he had a good friendship with them. They did a lot of, not gonna say business, but I'll say like tracalas, right? a lot of hustling back and forth and this. So, you know, he felt it was right for him to continue messing with them in the shadows, right behind the scenes. And I gotta give credit where credit's due. Giant was under Chino from San Diego. He was under him, and as much as I disliked this individual, right, from Old Town, he uh he was right in out in the open at least, right? And what I mean by this is they kept messing with each other, right? And it's what always happens in the pita. Something falls short, either the feria from one side or the jale from the next side, right? And then it becomes an issue. That issue gets brought to yard, and then it has potential to become something bigger. And it could have, because they basically shorted homie out, right, on a deal. He got the bad end of the stick, and the homie pressed the issue. He wanted permission, and so of course, Chino pulled the Dominicans in, and they said they will make it right. But the homie just had that ego on him, right? Because again, he was a big boy, you know, and I make a lot of them like that, right? And anyways, Chino just played it cool, man. Like nothing was happening, and then al lado de soldado, hey, go ahead and whack that fool. He ain't come through with what he owed you and promised. Go ahead, whack him. So Giant, of course, he had his thing with him, and he went and took care of business, right? He got the Dominican that owed him, and it stayed right there because it was behind their dealings and dope, you know. So it's understood from both sides it was between them two because it was well spoken amongst both sides that to avoid problems, just two of us, right? But anyways, the whole purpose of this, like I said, ain't nobody above the program, right? Cause right after this vato whacked him and went on his little way and then came back to the yard, Chino he already had two shooters for him, right? Waiting on him because he had violated what they all put out, which was no more messing around with Dominicans. And it was real clear the first time, you mess with them, you get caught, you're gonna get whacked. I'm not gonna say remove because it was more like a chacala, right? But he came back, and I guess someone told him like, "Hey, you got a chacala coming, my boy." O que le caigan, that ego first and foremost comes out, and he felt untouchable. The two shooters that Chino put on them, they were, well, we'll just say one was from up north more, from Santa Cruz, and the other homie was from SD, you know, and they had bone crushers. Sincerely, it was a chacala, but again, the homie wasn't to be taken light. I would do the same thing, I remember my second mission, it was a big boy too, and it don't really gives you a lot of wiggle room, right, to do much. So Anyways, these two homies, Giant was aware he was gonna had something coming, so he was trucha. And when the moment came, homie held his ground, right? But after so much, it was homie buckle. He buckled, and Chino was nearby till Chino said ya estuvo. That was it, and it was left there. The vato didn't go sideways. He he went, healed his wounds, whatever, and came out somewhere else. He didn't come back to the yard. Neither of the other homies either. But nevertheless, it was the time I seen Chino from Old Town. I actually, putting some his foot down on his own soldados, and I think it was part of because it came out in the open, so right, and but you could tell a lot from an individual how he played it cool, and yes, he owes you. Go ahead, go get your strap, go get him. Then afterwards, it was like, oh, he got something coming because we had already said, but we're just not gonna let another race burn us. His objective wasn't to get rid of him, regardless. But anyways, throughout my time, I seen it a lot, on camaradas. It's hard to pinpoint them, and they think they're above the program, one way or another. I once met a homie from Glendale, and he was hitting, you know, on the yard. I was just assisting on this yard. Yeah, another homie was actually had the jardín for Pili, right? And this vato, he was going out to visit and hitting, and wasn't telling no one. He was set on it for a couple weeks, and then pretending he would buy off someone else a hit and get rid of it. And who knows how long he did it for. And again, it comes out when somebody starts to owe you, right? Don't want to pay you. Then it becomes a big issue on the yard. And you have no option but to involve the rest because it could cause problems. Especially when you're messing with, like in this case, the homie from Glendale was from messing with the Gabachos. And it went bad there, right? So it could become, it had potential to become something that would involve the whole Ramfla. So we brought it to their attention, and then, well, you guys know what happened with that vato. Everything came out to flow. It was, you know, the vatos he was supposedly buying it from. He used to hit a pedazo, and then when he bought off of this dude, supposedly, he bought a pedazo, a full pedazo from him. It was like things like that just pulled his covers. But again, the thing is, like I stated in the beginning, the program is meant to be held by camaradas, period, point blank. That's where a heartache comes in that I always talk about. You know, you're seeing constantly homies getting booked because of something, and then you turn around and you see the Pilis do exactly why the homies losing their career, right? Cause I'll tell you one thing, up there on feds on that yard, that was the only Pili that still messed with the Dominicans. Cause the Dominicans had something coming in that he liked, you know. You guys know what I'm talking about, that vitamina for that vena, you know. It's just that Tecato mentality. Um, Me personally, Chino should have been gone a long time ago. You know, all that and getting a tenderoni homie and him trying to go and like the boy type of thing on them, and if not, and they press the issue, they will whack that Lato off the yard and sideline with Chino. That's BS, right? Nevertheless, it's like Gia Joe kept doing deals with the Dominicans. Like I said, it was just for the camaradas, and I proved it here with Giant. You know, even though in reality, throughout my walk, that's how it was. You know, you don't go against. You know, me personally is like, even if there's no Pilis around, you don't go against the program, right? So I don't agree with Giant, but I can also see his cockiness, you know, his ego, where it comes from. You know, he was big dude. He felt chingon. So if these individuals can do it, why can't I? When they know I got friendships with them and on a personal tip, right? And that's when I ricocheted, and he noticed that, you know, when things like that occurs, when that saying comes out, you know, we're eme, you're sureño, that we're two different ranflas. Don't ever forget it. But when it comes to push, to sacrifice for them and their dope, then we're the same thing, right? Anyways, this was just an in look to those that have not been there and are not there. These are the type of things you're gonna run across, you know, going in the systems. I'm not gonna say they're watered down or they're trash, or I'm not gonna disrespect them in that aspect. But nevertheless, you know, if you had heartaches when they were in the shoe, you know, don't sacrifice everything to go sit down and go through the struggles of seeing things. You know, you might have been lied to about from a big, from an older homie from your neighborhood, or a vato that just got out, that wants to glorify because just he just got out. You know, stay true, John. Be smarter than definitely me, right? But those that are doing the sacrifices of being in there, holding down the program, you know, my respects. You just be smarter. There ain't nothing to uphold in there no more. As you notice, there's not even no wars no more. What stripes you're gonna earn? Stay true to yourself, loyal to your loved ones.
This is so we started. We always